In the heart of New York City, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and streets buzzed with life, there lived a young woman named Emily Carter. At just 24 years old, Emily had already carved out a reputation for herself as one of the most compassionate nurses at St. Vincent's Hospital. She wasn't your average nurse. She had dreams bigger than the city itself. Her ultimate goal was to become a doctor, but for now she poured her heart into caring for patients who needed her most. Emily's days were anything but ordinary. The hospital was always bustling, filled with doctors rushing down corridors, machines beeping in syncopated rhythms, and the soft hum of conversations between staff members. Despite the chaos, Emily thrived under pressure. She had a knack for making even the grimmest situations feel a little brighter. Whether it was holding a patient's hand during tough moments or cracking lighthearted jokes to ease tension, Emily had a way of leaving a positive mark on everyone she met. One morning, as Emily tied her scrubs and prepared for another busy day, her supervisor approached her with an unusual request. "Emily," her supervisor said, glancing at a clipboard, "we need someone to take over the care of Mr. Nathan Blackwood. He's been in a coma for 6 months after a car accident, and his case is uncomplicated." The name rang a bell. Nathan Blackwood wasn't just any patient. He was a millionaire, a self-made tech tycoon whose face had once graced magazine covers. His company, Blackwood Technologies, revolutionized the way people interacted with technology. But beyond the headlines, very little was known about him personally. Rumors swirled that he was reclusive, preferring solitude over socializing, and his family hadn't been seen or heard from since the accident. This left the hospital responsible for his care, which was no small task given his condition. Taking care of a comatose patient wasn't easy. It required patience, precision, and a level of emotional resilience that not everyone possessed. Most nurses avoided such cases because they found them emotionally draining. But Emily didn't hesitate. "I'll do it," she said firmly, meeting her supervisor's gaze. There was something about helping someone so vulnerable that resonated deeply with her. Plus, she believed in miracles even when others didn't. When Emily entered Nathan's room for the first time, she felt a strange mix of curiosity and sadness. The man lying in the bed looked nothing like the powerful figure she'd seen in photos. His sharp features were softened by sleep, his once imposing presence reduced to stillness. Machines surrounded him, their blinking lights and rhythmic beeps, the only signs of life in the otherwise silent room. Tubes snaked across his body, connecting him to monitors that tracked every heartbeat and breath. Emily took a deep breath and approached the bed. "Hi, Mr. Blackwood," she said softly, though she knew he couldn't hear her. "I'm Emily. I'll be taking care of you." Her voice carried warmth, a stark contrast to the cold sterility of the room. As she adjusted his blankets and checked his vitals, she couldn't help but wonder about the man behind the legend. What kind of person was he? Did he have friends, family, hobbies? Or was he truly as isolated as the rumors suggested? Caring for Nathan became part of Emily's daily routine. Every morning she arrived early to ensure he was comfortable. Changing his diapers was perhaps the most challenging aspect of her duties. Not because it was physically demanding, but because it reminded her of how helpless he was. Yet, she never complained. Instead, she spoke to him as if he were awake, sharing stories about her day, talking about books she loved, or simply describing the weather outside. Sometimes she played soft music, hoping it might reach him somehow. Her colleagues noticed her dedication and often teased her about it. "You're going to turn him into your best friend before he even wakes up," one of them joked during lunch one day. Emily laughed along but didn't let their comments deter her. To her, Nathan wasn't just a patient. He was a human being deserving of dignity and respect, regardless of his circumstances. Over time, Emily began to notice subtle changes in Nathan. His vitals remained stable, but occasionally his fingers would twitch ever so slightly. Once she swore she saw his eyelids flutter, though it could have been her imagination. Determined to track these developments, she started keeping a journal. Each entry documented the smallest details, his breathing patterns, muscle movements, and anything else that seemed noteworthy. Some nights she stayed late, poring over medical journals to learn more about comas and recovery rates. She refused to give up hope, even when others thought she was wasting her time. Despite the challenges, Emily found solace in her work. Caring for Nathan gave her purpose, a reminder of why she wanted to pursue medicine in the first place. She dreamed of a day when he would wake up and thank her for sticking by him through the darkest times. Little did she know, fate had other plans in store for both of them. As weeks turned into months, Emily grew accustomed to the rhythm of her days. She didn't realize then that Nathan's awakening wouldn't just change his life, it would change hers too, in ways she could never have imagined. The days at St. Vincent's Hospital continued in their usual rhythm, but for Emily each morning brought a renewed sense of purpose. She carried her journal with her everywhere now, jotting down observations about Nathan Blackwood that she hoped might one day lead to a breakthrough. Her colleagues admired her dedication but often shook their heads when they saw her talking to him as though he were wide awake. "You're wasting your time," one of them said gently one afternoon while they both stood near the nurse's station. "He's been like this for months. He might never come back." Emily didn't argue. She simply smiled and replied, "Maybe. But what if he does?" That question lingered in her mind long after the conversation ended. What if he woke up? What kind of person would he be? Would he remember anything about his life before the accident? These thoughts kept her going even on the toughest days. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the hospital windows with hues of orange and pink, Emily found herself alone in Nathan's room. The night shift had just begun, and the corridors outside were quieter than usual. She adjusted his blankets, checked his IV drip, and made sure the monitors were functioning properly. As she leaned over him to straighten his pillow, something extraordinary happened. Nathan's fingers twitched. At first, Emily thought it was her imagination. After all, she'd seen slight movements before, reflexes the doctors called them. But this felt different. This wasn't random. It was deliberate. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Slowly, she reached out and took his hand in hers. His skin was cool, but there was a faint pressure against her palm, a squeeze so subtle that anyone else might have missed it. "Nathan," she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. "Can you hear me?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then his eyelids fluttered, once, twice, and then they opened. Emily gasped, stepping back instinctively, those piercing blue eyes locked onto hers, filled with confusion and disorientation. It took several seconds for Nathan to focus, but when he finally did, his gaze didn't waver. He stared at her as though trying to place her face, his expression unreadable. "What? Where?" he croaked, his voice hoarse from months of silence. His words were broken, barely audible, but they sent a jolt of excitement through Emily. She pressed the call button for assistance, her hands shaking as she fumbled with the device. "It's okay, Nathan," she said soothingly, leaning closer. "You're safe. You're in the hospital. You've been in a coma, but you're waking up now." Nathan blinked rapidly, processing her words. His lips moved as though he wanted to speak again, but no sound came out. Instead, he turned his head slightly, taking in the sterile surroundings, the machines, the tubes, the dim light filtering through the blinds. Panic flickered across his face, but Emily quickly reassured him. "You're going to be fine," she promised, her tone steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside her. "We'll figure everything out together." Within minutes, the room, filled with doctors and nurses, all rushing to assess Nathan's condition. Emily stepped aside, watching as they examined him, asked questions, and ran tests. Despite the chaos, she couldn't tear her eyes away from him. He was awake. Against all odds, he was awake. Over the next few hours, the medical team confirmed what Emily already knew. Nathan Blackwood was making an unprecedented recovery. His brain activity was stronger than expected, and his responses indicated a level of awareness far beyond what anyone had anticipated. While he still struggled to form coherent sentences, his progress was remarkable. Doctors marveled at his resilience, attributing it to his otherwise excellent health and perhaps even sheer willpower. As the initial excitement settled, Emily returned to Nathan's side. The rest of the staff had left the room, leaving them alone once more. Sitting beside him, she studied his face, searching for any sign of recognition. "Do you remember me?" she asked softly. "I'm Emily. I've been taking care of you." Nathan frowned, his brow furrowing as he tried to piece together fragments of memory. Finally, he nodded weakly. Emily," he murmured, his voice rough but clear enough to understand. Her heart skipped a beat. "That's right," she said, smiling despite the tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm here. You're not alone." For the first time since waking up, Nathan's tense shoulders relaxed. There was trust in his gaze, a quiet acknowledgement that he was safe with her. Though he couldn't articulate it yet, Emily sensed that he understood she had been by his side through every difficult moment. It was as though some part of him recognized her presence, even during the depths of his unconsciousness. Over the following days, Nathan's recovery accelerated at an astonishing pace. Physical therapy sessions helped him regain strength in his limbs, while speech exercises improved his ability to communicate. Each milestone brought new challenges, but Nathan tackled them with determination. Emily remained by his side throughout, cheering him on and offering encouragement whenever frustration threatened to overwhelm him. Their interactions grew more personal as Nathan regained his faculties. One afternoon, while Emily flipped through a magazine to distract him during a particularly grueling session, he suddenly spoke up. Why did you stay?" he asked, his voice still hesitant but clearer than before. Emily looked up, surprised by the question. "What do you mean?" "You could have given up," he continued, struggling to find the right words, "but you didn't. Why?" She hesitated, considering how best to answer. Finally, she shrugged and smiled. "Because I believe in second chances," she said simply. "And because you deserved someone who cared, even when things seemed hopeless." Nathan fell silent, his eyes locking onto hers. For a brief moment, Emily thought she saw gratitude, or maybe something deeper, flash across his face. Whatever it was, it made her cheeks flush, and she quickly looked away, pretending to adjust his blanket. As the days turned into weeks, Nathan began to piece together memories of his life before the accident. He recalled building his company from scratch, the sacrifices he made along the way, and the isolation that came with success. Yet, certain details eluded him, particularly those surrounding the accident itself. Fragments of recollection hinted at danger, shadows lurking in the corners of his mind, but he couldn't quite grasp them. Emily noticed his growing unease and gently encouraged him to take his time. "Your memories will come back when you're ready," she assured him. "Don't push yourself too hard." Despite her calming words, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone had tried to harm him. The realization unsettled him, but he pushed it aside for now, focusing instead on rebuilding his strength and regaining control of his life. With Emily by his side, he felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in what felt like forever. Unbeknownst to either of them, however, their journey was far from over. The shadows Nathan sensed weren't mere figments of his imagination. They were real, and they were closing in. As Nathan's recovery progressed, Emily began to notice subtle changes in his demeanor. While he was grateful for her care and the efforts of the medical team, there was a growing tension in his eyes, a flicker of unease that hinted at something deeper. It wasn't just the physical toll of the accident or the frustration of relearning basic tasks. It was something more profound, something buried beneath the surface. One evening, as the hospital corridors grew quiet and the soft hum of machinery filled the room, Nathan motioned for Emily to sit closer. His voice, though still weak, carried an urgency she hadn't heard before. "Emily," he began, his gaze fixed on hers, "there's something I need to tell you. Something important." She leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. "What is it?" Nathan hesitated, as if weighing whether to trust her completely. Finally, he sighed and said, "Before the accident, I uncovered something dangerous. He paused, searching for the right words. Someone wanted me out of the way. Permanently. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She had suspected that the crash might not have been an accident, but hearing Nathan confirm it sent a chill down her spine. Who would do that? She asked softly, her mind racing with possibilities. I don't know for sure, Nathan admitted, his voice tinged with frustration. But I think it has something to do with my company. He explained how Blackwood Technologies had grown into a global powerhouse, revolutionizing industries with cutting-edge innovations. Success, however, came at a cost. Competitors were relentless, and tensions within the company itself had reached a boiling point. Just weeks before the accident, Nathan had stumbled upon evidence of corporate espionage. Someone inside his own organization was leaking confidential information to rivals. The revelation stunned Emily. She had always known Nathan was wealthy and influential, but she never imagined the extent of the pressures he faced. Did you confront anyone about it? She asked cautiously. Nathan shook his head. I didn't get the chance. Whoever's behind this must have realized I was onto them. The last thing I remember before the crash. His voice trailed off, his expression clouded with uncertainty. It's fuzzy, but I think someone tampered with my car. Emily's heart sank. If what Nathan said was true, then they were dealing with more than just a random act of violence. They were facing a calculated attempt on his life, orchestrated by someone who wouldn't hesitate to try again if they found out he was awake. We can't stay silent about this, Emily said firmly, her protective instincts kicking in. You need to report it to the police. Nathan nodded, but his expression remained troubled. I want to, but I don't know who I can trust. My family hasn't been around since the accident. They cut ties long ago because of how I ran the business. And most of my employees. He sighed heavily. Let's just say loyalty isn't exactly their strong suit. Emily placed a reassuring hand on his arm. You're not alone anymore. We'll figure this out together. Her words seemed to ease some of the tension in his shoulders. Over the next few days, they devised a plan. Nathan couldn't access his files directly from the hospital, but he remembered storing encrypted backups in a secure cloud system. With Emily's help, he hoped to retrieve the evidence needed to expose the conspiracy against him. The process wasn't easy. Nathan's memory was still fragmented, and accessing the files required navigating complex security protocols. Emily spent hours jotting down passwords and instructions as Nathan dictated them, piecing together clues like a detective solving a puzzle. Their late-night conversations became a mix of strategy sessions and moments of vulnerability. Nathan opened up about his past, the sacrifices he made to build his empire, the loneliness that came with success, and his regret over pushing away those who cared about him. For Emily, these exchanges offered a glimpse into the man behind the legend. Beneath the polished exterior of the tech mogul lay someone deeply human, burdened by guilt and longing for redemption. She found herself drawn to his honesty, even as she reminded herself to maintain professional boundaries. Meanwhile, Nathan began to see Emily in a new light. Her unwavering support and quick thinking impressed him, but it was her kindness that truly stood out. In a world where people often judged him based on his wealth and power, Emily treated him as an equal. For the first time in years, he felt genuinely understood. Their bond deepened with each passing day, but neither dared to acknowledge the growing connection between them. Both knew the stakes were too high. The threat looming over Nathan cast a shadow over everything else. Still, moments of levity occasionally broke through the tension. Once, while struggling to recall a password, Nathan joked, "Maybe I should have written these things down instead of relying on my genius memory." Emily laughed, shaking her head. Genius? Really? Because right now you're acting like someone who forgot their own birthday. Her teasing brought a rare smile to Nathan's face, a reminder that despite the danger, life could still hold moments of joy. As they worked on retrieving the files, Nathan mentioned Clara, his longtime assistant. Of everyone in his inner circle, Clara was the one person he trusted implicitly. She's loyal to a fault, he explained, If anyone can help us without asking too many questions, it's her. With Emily's encouragement, Nathan reached out to Clara via email, using a secure account set up by the hospital. To his relief, she responded almost immediately. "Mr. Blackwood," her message read, "I've been worried sick about you. Please let me know how I can help." Nathan replied, explaining the situation carefully and instructing her to meet them discreetly. Clara agreed, promising to assist in any way she could. By the time Clara arrived at the hospital a week later, Nathan had regained enough strength to walk short distances with assistance. Dressed in plain clothes borrowed from Emily, a pair of sweatpants and an oversized hoodie, he greeted Clara in a private meeting room. Emily stayed close, observing the interaction with interest. Clara was a petite woman in her early 30s with sharp features and an air of quiet competence. Her eyes widened when she saw Nathan standing on his own 2 feet. "Sir, you're alive," she exclaimed, her voice trembling with emotion. "Barely," Nathan replied with a wry smile. "But yes, I'm here, and I need your help. Over." The next hour, Nathan filled Clara in on the details of the conspiracy and their plan to expose it. Clara listened intently, nodding along as he spoke. When he finished, she squared her shoulders and said, "Whatever you need, I'll do it. You've always taken care of us, I won't let you down now." Her loyalty bolstered Nathan's resolve, and for the first time in months he felt a glimmer of hope. With Clara's assistance, they finalized their strategy, retrieved the encrypted files, contact law enforcement, and ensure the perpetrator was brought to justice. But as they prepared to move forward, none of them realized the danger they were walking into, or the lengths their enemy would go to protect their secrets. Unbeknownst to Nathan, Emily, and Clara, someone had already taken notice of Nathan's awakening. Shadows stirred in the background, watching and waiting. The game of cat and mouse was about to begin, and every step forward brought them closer to uncovering the truth and risking everything they held dear. The days following Clara's arrival at the hospital were a whirlwind of activity. With her help, Nathan, Emily, and Clara worked tirelessly to piece together the evidence needed to expose the conspiracy within Blackwood Technologies. The encrypted files stored in Nathan's secure cloud system held the key to unraveling the truth, but accessing them proved to be no small feat. Each step forward felt like navigating a labyrinth filled with dead ends and hidden traps. Clara took charge of coordinating with trusted contacts within the company, discreetly gathering information without raising suspicion. Meanwhile, Nathan focused on recalling passwords and security protocols, his memory slowly improving as he regained strength. Emily acted as the glue holding the trio together, jotting down notes, double-checking details, and ensuring they stayed one step ahead of potential threats. Her calm demeanor under pressure became an invaluable asset, earning both Nathan and Clara's admiration. Their late-night planning sessions often stretched into the early hours of the morning. Huddled around a laptop in Nathan's private hospital room, they pored over documents, decrypted emails, and analyzed patterns that hinted at betrayal. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became. Someone high up in the company had orchestrated the attack on Nathan. The evidence pointed to Victor Langston, one of Nathan's top executives and a man who had long coveted control of Blackwood Technologies. Victor was charismatic, ambitious, and ruthless, qualities that made him a formidable opponent. He had risen through the ranks quickly, earning Nathan's trust by delivering impressive results. But beneath his polished exterior lay a hunger for power that knew no bounds. According to the files, Victor had been siphoning confidential data to rival companies, using insider knowledge to sabotage projects and manipulate stock prices. When Nathan discovered the trail of deceit, Victor must have panicked and decided to eliminate the threat permanently. As the pieces fell into place, Nathan couldn't help but feel a mix of anger and regret. "I should have seen this coming," he muttered one night, rubbing his temples in frustration. "I was so focused on growing the company that I didn't pay attention to who I trusted." Emily placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You couldn't have known," she said gently. "What matters now is stopping him before he hurts anyone else." Her words brought a small measure of comfort, but Nathan still wrestled with guilt. He thought about all the people who had depended on him, the employees whose livelihoods were tied to the company, the customers who relied on its products, and even Clara, whose unwavering loyalty deserved better than betrayal. Determined to make things right, he vowed not to let Victor get away with his crimes. While the team worked on exposing the conspiracy, their bond grew stronger. Emily found herself drawn to Nathan's vulnerability beneath his tough exterior. Despite his wealth and status, he carried scars from years of isolation and self-sacrifice. She admired his determination to rebuild not just his life, but also his relationships. For his part, Nathan couldn't help but notice how much Emily had come to mean to him. Her kindness, intelligence, and courage inspired him in ways he hadn't expected. One evening, as they reviewed the latest batch of decrypted files, Nathan turned to Emily with a soft smile. "You know," he said, his voice tinged with gratitude, "I don't think I'd be here without you. You've done more for me than anyone ever has." Emily blushed, brushing off the compliment with a laugh. "It's my job to take care of people, remember. Besides, you're the one doing all the hard work." But Nathan wasn't fooled. He saw the effort she put into helping him, the way she sacrificed her own time and energy to ensure his recovery and safety. It wasn't just professionalism, it was genuine care. And for the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine a future where he wasn't alone. Despite these moments of connection, the looming threat reminded them not to lose focus. They knew Victor wouldn't sit idly by while they gathered evidence against him. Sure enough, trouble came knocking sooner than they anticipated. Late one night, as Clara left the hospital after another marathon session, she noticed a black sedan parked across the street. Its tinted windows made it impossible to see inside, but something about the car set off alarm bells in her mind. She quickened her pace, glancing over her shoulder as she walked toward her own vehicle. Just as she reached for her keys, a figure emerged from the shadows. "Ms. Bennett," the man said, his tone icy. "Mr. Blackwood is awake, isn't he?" Clara froze, her heart racing. She recognized the man immediately. It was one of Victor's associates, someone known for handling his dirty work. "I don't know what you're talking about," she stammered, clutching her bag tightly. The man smirked, stepping closer. "Don't play dumb. We know you've been helping him. Tell Mr. Blackwood this. If he knows what's good for him, he'll drop the investigation. Otherwise..." He let the sentence hang ominously before slipping back into the darkness. Shaken, Clara rushed back to the hospital and relayed the encounter to Nathan and Emily. Fear gripped the room as they realized the stakes had just escalated. Whoever was behind the attack wasn't going to stop until they silenced Nathan, or worse. "We can't wait any longer," Nathan said firmly, his jaw clenched with resolve. "We need to act now." With Clara's help, they arranged a meeting with law enforcement the next day. Using the evidence they had gathered, they planned to file a formal complaint against Victor and request protective custody for Nathan. But Victor, sensing their move, retaliated swiftly. Early the following morning, as Emily accompanied Nathan to the hospital lobby for the meeting, chaos erupted. Two men in dark suits burst through the doors, shouting orders and brandishing weapons. Patients and staff scattered in panic, screams echoing through the corridors. "Stay close," Nathan shouted, grabbing Emily's hand and pulling her toward a nearby stairwell. Adrenaline surged through their veins as they raced upward, dodging obstacles and trying to stay ahead of their pursuers. Clara, who had been waiting outside, spotted the commotion and called for backup, alerting hospital security and local authorities. Trapped on the roof with nowhere else to go, Nathan and Emily faced their attackers head-on. Thinking quickly, Emily grabbed a metal pipe lying near the edge of the rooftop and swung it with surprising force, catching one of the men off guard. Nathan used the distraction to tackle the other assailant, pinning him down until reinforcements arrived. By the time police officers stormed the scene, the attackers were subdued and Nathan and Emily were safe, but shaken. It was clear now that Victor would stop at nothing to protect his secrets. Back inside the hospital, as paramedics checked them for injuries, Nathan looked at Emily with newfound respect. "You saved us," he said, his voice filled with awe. "Just did what anyone would do," she replied modestly, though her hands still trembled from the ordeal. Nathan shook his head. No, you did more than that. You proved that bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about standing your ground when everything tells you to run. In that moment, their connection deepened further. They weren't just patient and caregiver or allies working toward a common goal. They were partners, bound by shared experiences and mutual trust. As they prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain. Together, they could overcome anything. Victor's arrest was imminent, but the road to justice wouldn't be easy. Still, with Emily by his side, Nathan felt ready to confront the shadows of his past and step into a brighter future. The aftermath of the rooftop confrontation left Nathan, Emily, and Clara shaken but resolute. The attack had confirmed their worst fears. Victor Langston wasn't just dangerous, he was desperate, knowing that law enforcement alone might not be enough to stop him. The trio decided to take matters into their own hands. They needed hard evidence, something undeniable that would expose Victor's crimes and ensure he faced justice. With police protection now in place outside the hospital, Nathan focused on retrieving the final pieces of data from his encrypted cloud storage. Emily and Clara worked tirelessly to decrypt the files, piecing together a timeline of Victor's betrayal. Each new discovery painted a clearer picture of his greed and ruthlessness. Emails revealed secret meetings with rival companies, financial records showed illegal transactions, and surveillance footage captured Victor discussing plans to sabotage key projects within Blackwood Technologies. But as they dug deeper, it became evident that Victor had anticipated Nathan's return. He had already begun covering his tracks, deleting critical documents and pressuring employees to stay silent. Time was running out. If they didn't act quickly, Victor might destroy everything they had worked so hard to uncover. One evening, while reviewing the decrypted files, Clara made a startling discovery. "There's a backup server," she announced, her eyes wide with excitement. "It's hidden off-site in an old warehouse near the docks. If we can get to it, we'll have everything we need." Nathan frowned, concern etched across his face. "That's risky. Victor will be watching the location closely." "We don't have a choice," Emily interjected firmly. "If this is our only shot at stopping him, we have to take it." After much deliberation, they devised a plan. Clara would contact a trusted IT specialist to help them access the server remotely, while Nathan and Emily traveled to the warehouse under the cover of darkness. Police officers agreed to provide backup, staying nearby in case things went wrong. It was a dangerous gamble, but they all knew it was necessary. The night of the operation arrived, cloaked in thick fog that rolled in from the river. Nathan and Emily slipped quietly into a rented van, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Armed with flashlights, gloves, and a portable hard drive, they approached the warehouse cautiously. The building loomed ahead, its windows dark and boarded up, giving it an eerie, abandoned look. "This place gives me the creep," Emily whispered as they stepped inside. The air smelled musty, and the floor creaked beneath their feet. Shadows danced along the walls, cast by the faint glow of their flashlights. "Stay close," Nathan murmured, scanning the room for any signs of trouble. They moved swiftly, searching for the server room Clara had described. Minutes felt like hours as they navigated through piles of discarded equipment and dusty crates. Finally, they found it. A small locked door tucked away in a corner. Using tools Nathan had brought along, they managed to pry it open. Inside, rows of blinking lights illuminated a cluster of servers humming softly. Emily plugged the portable hard drive into the main terminal, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she initiated the data transfer. "Hurry," Nathan urged, keeping watch at the doorway. Every second felt heavier than the last, the weight of potential danger pressing down on them. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the warehouse. Heavy boots thudded against the concrete floor, growing louder with each passing moment. Nathan swore under his breath. "We've got company." Emily's hands trembled, but she forced herself to focus. "Almost done," she said through gritted teeth. Beads of sweat formed on her forehead as she monitored the progress bar on the screen. The footsteps grew closer, accompanied by muffled voices. Nathan grabbed a metal pipe lying nearby, ready to defend them if necessary. His heart raced, adrenaline coursing through his veins. For a brief moment he wondered if they had underestimated Victor's reach, but there was no turning back now. Just as the door burst open, revealing two armed men silhouetted in the dim light, the transfer completed. "Got it," Emily exclaimed, yanking the hard drive free. Without hesitation, Nathan charged forward, swinging the pipe with precision. One of the intruders stumbled backward, clutching his arm, while the other lunged toward them. Emily ducked behind a stack of crates, using the chaos to her advantage. She hurled a wrench she'd picked up earlier, striking the second man squarely in the chest. He staggered, giving Nathan enough time to disarm him. Outside, the distant wail of sirens signaled the arrival of police reinforcements. Hearing the commotion, the attackers fled into the night, leaving Nathan and Emily panting and bruised, but victorious. As officers swarmed the warehouse, securing the area and tending to minor injuries, Nathan turned to Emily with a mixture of relief and admiration. "You're incredible, you know that?" he said, his voice hoarse but filled with gratitude. Emily managed a shaky smile. "Let's just say I'm glad we're still alive." Back at the hospital later that night, the trio reviewed the contents of the hard drive. What they found exceeded their expectations. Not only did it contain irrefutable proof of Victor's corporate espionage, but it also included recordings of conversations where he explicitly discussed eliminating Nathan. The evidence was damning, leaving no room for doubt about his guilt. Armed with this new information, they contacted law enforcement once again, providing them with everything they needed to arrest Victor. Within hours, authorities raided his home and office, seizing documents and electronic devices. Victor was taken into custody without resistance, his confidence shattered when confronted with the mountain of evidence against him. As news of Victor's arrest spread, the mood at Blackwood Technologies shifted dramatically. Employees who had feared retaliation came forward with additional testimonies, further solidifying the case against him. Clara worked tirelessly to restore order within the company, ensuring operations continued smoothly despite the upheaval. For Nathan, the victory brought a mix of emotions. Relief washed over him, knowing that the threat was finally neutralized. But there was also regret for the trust he had misplaced, the relationships he had neglected, and the lives affected by Victor's actions. Determined to make amends, he announced sweeping changes within the company, prioritizing transparency and ethical practices moving forward. Meanwhile, Emily's role in exposing the conspiracy earned widespread recognition. Her bravery and quick thinking saved not only Nathan's life but also countless others who might have been harmed by Victor's schemes. Though she remained humble about her contributions, Nathan insisted on acknowledging her efforts publicly. "You deserve credit for what you've done," he told her one evening as they sat together in the hospital garden. "You changed everything." Emily shook her head, smiling softly. "I just did what anyone else in my position would do. Besides, it wasn't just me. It was all of us working together." Her modesty only deepened Nathan's admiration for her. Over the weeks that followed, their bond continued to grow stronger. Conversations stretched beyond the investigation, delving into dreams, fears, and hopes for the future. Emily shared her aspirations of becoming a doctor, while Nathan opened up about his desire to use his wealth for good, focusing on philanthropy and mentoring young entrepreneurs. Though neither dared to define their relationship outright, it was clear that something special had blossomed between them. Their connection transcended gratitude or admiration. It was built on mutual respect, shared experiences, and an unspoken promise to support each other no matter what. As Nathan prepared to leave the hospital, officially discharged and ready to reclaim his life, he paused outside Emily's office. Holding a small envelope in his hand, he knocked gently on the doorframe. "Got a minute?" he asked, his tone playful yet tinged with nervousness. Emily looked up from her desk, surprised to see him standing there. "Of course. What's up?" He handed her the envelope, his expression unreadable. "Open it later," he said with a wink. "Consider it a thank you gift." Curious, but respecting his request, Emily set the envelope aside and walked him to the exit. As they stood beneath the bright hospital lights, Nathan turned to face her, his blue eyes soft and sincere. "I owe you more than I can ever repay," he said quietly. "But I hope you'll let me try." Emily smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "You don't owe me anything, Nathan. Just keep doing what you're doing, making the world a better place." They shared a long look, the kind that spoke volumes without words. Then, with a final nod of gratitude, Nathan stepped out into the crisp morning air, ready to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. Little did he, or Emily, know, their journey was far from over. Whatever the future held, one thing was certain: they would face it together. With Victor Langston behind bars and the conspiracy against him exposed, Nathan Blackwood finally had the chance to rebuild his life. The weight of betrayal and fear that had haunted him for months began to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. Yet as he stepped out of St. Vincent's Hospital for the first time in nearly 7 months, he couldn't help but feel a strange mix of excitement and uncertainty. His world had changed dramatically, both because of the accident and because of the people who had stood by him during his darkest days. Emily was one of those people. As she watched Nathan walk away from the hospital that morning, she felt a pang of bittersweet emotion. For months, her life had revolved around caring for him, protecting him, and helping him uncover the truth. Now, as he prepared to return to his old life, she wondered where that left her. Would their connection fade once he no longer needed her care? Or would they find a way to stay close despite their different worlds? The envelope Nathan had given her sat untouched on her desk at home. She stared at it curiously, debating whether to open it right away or wait until later. Finally, curiosity won out. Carefully tearing open the seal, she pulled out a handwritten letter and a folded check. Her breath caught as she read the words scrawled in Nathan's neat handwriting. "Dear Emily, I can never truly express how much your kindness, courage, and unwavering support have meant to me. You didn't just save my life, you reminded me what it means to trust again. Enclosed is a small token of my gratitude. Please use it to pursue your dreams of becoming a doctor. I believe in you more than you know. Yours always, Nathan." Beneath the letter lay a check made out in an amount so large that Emily's hands trembled as she held it. Tears welled up in her eyes, not just because of the generosity, but because of the heartfelt sentiment behind it. Nathan believed in her, even when she sometimes doubted herself. Still, she knew accepting the money outright wasn't something she could do without hesitation. The next day, Emily called Nathan, her voice steady but firm. "I need to talk to you," she said simply. They agreed to meet at a quiet cafe near the hospital, a place where they often grabbed coffee during late-night shifts. When Emily arrived, Nathan greeted her with a warm smile. "Hey," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "What's on your mind?" She slid the envelope across the table, her expression serious. "Thank you for this. It means more than I can say, but I can't accept it." Nathan frowned, taken aback. "Why not?" "Because it doesn't feel right," she explained, choosing her words carefully. "You've already done so much for me, Nathan. This is too much. My dream is important to me, yes, but I want to earn it on my own terms." He studied her face, seeing the determination in her eyes. After a moment, he nodded slowly. "I understand," he said, "but let me propose something instead. What if we turn this into a scholarship fund? Something that helps other aspiring doctors and nurses like you achieve their goals. It could honor everything you've done, not just for me, but for all your patients." Emily blinked, surprised by the suggestion. "A scholarship fund?" she repeated, considering the idea. Slowly, a smile spread across her face. "That actually sounds perfect." They spent the rest of the afternoon discussing the details, laughing over shared memories and imagining the impact such a fund could have. By the time they parted ways, Emily felt lighter, as though a new chapter was beginning for both of them. In the weeks that followed, Nathan threw himself into transforming Blackwood Technologies. He dismantled parts of the company that prioritized profit over ethics, focusing instead on projects that benefited society. Under Clara's guidance, he launched initiatives to mentor young entrepreneurs and provide resources to underserved communities. He also donated millions to medical research, inspired by the care he had received during his coma. But perhaps the most significant change was personal. Nathan reached out to his estranged family, apologizing for years of neglect and working to rebuild fractured relationships. To everyone's surprise, his efforts were met with forgiveness and a willingness to reconnect. Even his younger sister, whom he hadn't spoken to in over a decade, agreed to join him for dinner, a tentative step toward healing old wounds. For Emily, life moved forward in its own rhythm. With Nathan's support and her own hard work, she enrolled in a prestigious medical program, determined to fulfill her dream of becoming a doctor. Though the coursework was challenging, she approached it with the same resilience and dedication that had defined her nursing career. On tough days, she reminded herself of Nathan's belief in her and the countless lives she hoped to touch someday. Despite their busy schedules, Nathan and Emily stayed in touch. Their conversations shifted from crisis management to lighthearted banter, sharing updates about their respective journeys. Occasionally, they met for coffee or dinner, finding comfort in each other's company. While neither explicitly labeled their relationship, there was an undeniable spark between them, a quiet understanding that transcended labels. One crisp autumn morning, Nathan sent Emily a text message. "Let me take you somewhere." Intrigued, she replied with a simple "okay." That evening, he picked her up in a sleek black car, refusing to reveal their destination until they arrived. They drove out of the city, leaving behind the skyscrapers and bustling streets for rolling hills and golden fields. Eventually, they reached a secluded park overlooking a serene lake. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm orange glow over the water. A picnic blanket was laid out, complete with candles, fresh flowers, and a basket filled with gourmet treats. "What's all this?" Emily asked, her voice tinged with awe. Nathan grinned, looking slightly nervous. "Just a little thank you gesture," he said, "for everything." As they sat together, sharing stories and enjoying the peaceful surroundings, Emily realized how far they had come. From diapers to danger, their journey had been anything but ordinary, and yet through every challenge they had found strength in each other. Before leaving, Nathan handed her a small box wrapped in delicate paper. Inside was a silver locket engraved with a single word: hope. "It's beautiful," Emily whispered, holding it up to the fading sunlight. "Thank you." "I thought you should have something to remind you of how far you've come," Nathan said softly, "and how much further you'll go." Their eyes met, and for a brief moment, the rest of the world seemed to fade away. Whatever the future held, they knew they would face it side by side. Years later, when Emily graduated at the top of her class and delivered a heartfelt speech about perseverance and gratitude, Nathan sat in the audience, beaming with pride. As she scanned the crowd and locked eyes with him, she mouthed two simple words: "Thank you." For both of them, it was a reminder of how their lives had intertwined in the most unexpected ways. From a hospital room to a lakeside picnic, their story proved that sometimes the greatest transformations begin with a single act of kindness and lead to a lifetime of possibilities.